The letter arrived on a Tuesday, sealed in a plain white envelope that burned like a grenade in Michael's hands. He stood frozen in his Seattle kitchen, the ticking clock deafening as his husband, David, watched from across the room, eyes wide with dread. By nightfall, their world would collapse. A DNA test had revealed their son, Ethan, wasn't theirs, and the truth about their past was about to unravel. Michael, 38, had always been the steady one. A high school history teacher with a warm laugh and a knack for fixing things: broken desks, broken hearts. David, 37, a graphic designer with a quiet intensity, balanced Michael's optimism with a cautious heart, scarred from a youth spent hiding who he was. They'd built a life together in a cozy craftsman home, raising Ethan, their 16-year-old son, with love and routine. Ethan was their pride, curly-haired, quick-witted, a soccer star with Michael's stubborn streak and David's sharp eyes. But the letter, from a hospital mix-up investigation, shattered their certainty. Ethan was not their biological son. He'd been switched at birth with another boy, Liam, now living across town with a single father. James Carter, 39, was a carpenter, rugged and reserved, with a past he'd buried deep. His son, Liam, 16, had straight black hair and a quiet demeanor, more comfortable sketching in his notebook than chasing a ball. James had raised Liam alone after his wife left when Liam was 2. Her departure a wound he never discussed. The DNA test results hit James like a freight train. Had loved Liam fiercely. But now he faced the truth that Liam was Michael and David's biological son, and Ethan was his. The first meeting was arranged at a neutral mediator's office, a sterile room that smelled of coffee and regret. Michael's heart pounded as he and David sat across from James, Ethan and Liam fidgeting in chairs nearby. The boys, strangers yet bound by this cosmic error, exchanged awkward glances. Ethan's usual confidence was gone, replaced by a tight-lipped unease. Liam's eyes stayed glued to the floor, his sketchbook clutched like a shield. Michael studied James, noting the man's calloused hands and guarded expression. There was something familiar about him, a flicker of recognition Michael couldn't place. "Why now?" James asked, voice low but sharp, breaking the silence. "Why dig this up after 16 years? The mediator, a woman with a calm but firm demeanor, explained a hospital audit had uncovered the switch. A clerical error from a chaotic night in 2009. 2 babies, born hours apart, had been mislabeled in the nursery. The hospital offered apologies and counseling, but no one in the room cared about their platitudes. Michael felt David's hand tremble in his, and he squeezed it, anchoring them both. "We need to figure out what's best for the boys," David said, his voice steady despite the storm in his eyes. "They deserve the truth, but also stability." James nodded, but his jaw tightened. "Liam's my son, biology or not. I've raised him. I'm not giving him up." "No one's asking you to," Michael said quickly, though his heart ached at the thought of Ethan belonging to someone else. The room felt too small, the air too thick. Ethan shifted, his sneakers scuffing the floor. "Dad," Ethan said, voice cracking, looking at Michael. "Am I still yours?" Michael's throat closed. He crossed the room in 2 strides, kneeling before Ethan. "You're my son. Always will be." David joined them, wrapping an arm around Ethan, his eyes glistening. Across the room, James pulled Liam close, mirroring their embrace. For a moment, the 4 parents and 2 boys were united in their fear and love, a fragile thread holding them together. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He lay beside David, staring at the ceiling, the DNA results replaying in his mind. There was something else in the report, Something he hadn't told David yet. A genetic marker linking him to James. A clue to a past neither had spoken of in years. Michael's thoughts drifted to a summer long ago, when he was 19, reckless and searching for himself in a small Oregon town. A memory of a bonfire, a stranger's laugh, and a night that changed everything. By morning, Michael knew he couldn't keep it buried. He found David in the kitchen, coffee mug in hand, and said, "There's something you need to know about James. I think I knew him before." David's mug froze halfway to his lips. "Knew him?" he asked, his voice tight, searching Michael's face. The kitchen, usually a haven of morning light, felt like a confessional. Michael took a breath, the weight of 20 years pressing down. It was the summer of 2005. In Newport. I was 19, figuring myself out. I met a guy at a beach bonfire, James. We connected. One night. No strings. I never saw him again. Until yesterday. David set the mug down hard, coffee sloshing. His eyes, usually so warm, were stormy. "You're telling me the father of the boy we've been raising might be someone you slept with? And you didn't think to mention this before?" "I didn't know it was him." Michael's voice rose, then softened. "It was one night. David. I was a kid, running from who I was. I didn't even know his last name." David paced, hands raking through his hair. "And now, our son's not ours. And the guy across town isn't just some stranger's part of your past. What else are you hiding?" The question stung, but Michael had no answer. The DNA report's genetic marker suggested he and James shared more than a fleeting memory. But he wasn't ready to face what that meant. Instead, he reached for David, who pulled away, his hurt palpable. Across town, James was grappling with his own ghosts. He sat in his workshop, surrounded by half-finished furniture. Liam's sketchbook open on the bench. Liam had left it behind after a tense breakfast, where he'd barely spoken, his eyes red from crying. James traced the pencil lines of a Droinga lighthouse, stark against a stormy sea. It was so like Liam, capturing beauty in chaos. But now, James wondered if that talent came from Michael or David. Not him. James hadn't thought about Newport in years. That summer, he'd been 20, working construction, hiding his truth from a world that didn't accept it. Meeting Michael had been a spark in the dark, a boy with a reckless smile who made him feel alive. But shame and fear had driven James away by morning, back to a life of denial. A brief marriage, and then Liam. Now, the past was clawing its way back. The families agreed to meet again, this time at a park, hoping open air would ease the tension. Ethan and Liam sat on a bench, kicking at the grass, while Michael, David, and James stood awkwardly nearby. The boys were cautious, their lives upended, but curiosity drew them together. "You play soccer?" Ethan asked, breaking the silence. "Nah," Liam replied, shy but warm. "I draw. You any good at it?" Ethan grinned. "Stick figures. Maybe." They laughed, a small bridge forming. Watching them, Michael felt a pang of hope. But David's distance was a wall between them. James, too, seemed guarded, his eyes flickering to Michael with something unspoken. The mediator had suggested therapy, co-parenting plans, even legal steps. But no one was ready for that. They were all still reeling, caught between love for the sons they'd raised and the truth of the ones they'd lost. That evening, Ethan came to Michael with a question that broke his heart. "If I'm not your real son, why do you still want me?" His voice was small, vulnerable in a way Michael hadn't heard since Ethan was a child. Michael knelt, gripping Ethan's shoulders. "You are my real son. Love doesn't need a test to prove it." He pulled Ethan into a hug, feeling David's eyes on them from the doorway. David joined, his touch hesitant, but there. A silent promise to try. James, meanwhile, was digging into his own past. He found an old box in his attic, filled with photos from 2005. One showed him and Michael, laughing by the bonfire, arms slung around each other. The memory hit hard. Michael's warmth, the way he'd made James feel seen. But there was more, a letter, tucked away, from a clinic. James's hands shook as he read it, the words confirming a suspicion the DNA test had sparked. He called Michael that night, voice rough. We need to talk. Alone. It's about that summer and what it left behind. Michael met James at a quiet diner on the edge of town, the neon sign buzzing faintly in the rain-soaked night. They sat in a corner booth, the air thick with unspoken history. James slid a faded letter across the table, his hands unsteady. Read this, he said, eyes locked on Michael's. It's from a clinic. Summer of 2005. I wasn't just running from you back then. Michael's fingers trembled as he unfolded the paper. The letter was brief. Clinical, a confirmation of a donation James had made to a fertility clinic. A desperate act to pay off debts. Michael's breath caught. You're saying one of the boys could be yours? Biologically? James nodded, jaw tight. I didn't know it worked. They said it was anonymous. No follow-up. But the DNA test the marker. It's not just about you and me knowing each other. One of them, Ethan or Liam, might be mine. Not just switched, but mine. The revelation hit Michael like a wave. He thought of Ethan's stubbornness, Liam's quiet intensity traits that could belong to James. The diner's hum faded as he processed the weight of it. Their past wasn't just a fleeting romance, but a thread tying them to the boys they'd raised. Back home, Michael didn't tell David right away. The rift between them was still raw, and this new truth felt like kindling on a fire. Instead, he watched Ethan sleep, sprawled across his bed with a soccer ball tucked under his arm. Across town, James did the same with Liam, studying his son's face for clues he'd never thought to look for. The boys, meanwhile, were finding their own way. Ethan invited Liam to a soccer practice, a tentative olive branch. Liam showed up, sketchbook in hand, sketching the players between awkward kicks at the ball. You're not bad, Ethan said, tossing him a water bottle. For an artist. Liam smirked. You're not bad for a jock. Their laughter was a small victory, a bond forming despite the chaos. David, struggling with his own hurt, sought out a therapist alone. He sat in a small office, pouring out his fear off losing Ethan, of Michael's past pulling them apart. I've always been the one who holds things together, he said, voice breaking. But now, I don't know if I can. The therapist listened, then asked, what does family mean to you, David? The question lingered, forcing him to confront his deepest fear, that love might not be enough. A second meeting with all four was tense. James revealed the clinic letter, his voice steady but eyes haunted. David's face paled, his gaze flicking to Michael, who looked away. So, what? David asked, voice sharp. One of them is yours, biologically, and we just swap them back like puzzle pieces. No one's swapping anyone, James snapped. Liam's my son. I don't care what a test says. Then why tell us? David shot back. Michael reached for his hand, but David pulled away again, the distance growing. Ethan and Liam, listening quietly, exchanged a look. We're not puzzle pieces, Ethan said, his voice firm. We're people. We get a say, right? The adults fell silent, shamed by the truth in his words. Liam nodded. clutching his sketchbook. I don't want to lose my dad. But I want to know you guys, too. That night, Michael found David in their backyard, staring at the stars. I'm sorry, Michael said, voice raw, for not telling you sooner. For everything. But we're still us. Ethan's still ours. David's eyes softened, but the hurt lingered. I need time. Michael. It's too much. James, alone in his workshop, stared at the bonfire photo. He wondered if the boy he'd loved for a night could be the key to saving them all or breaking them apart. The rain didn't stop for days, mirroring the storm in Michael's heart as he drove Ethan to school. Ethan, usually chatty, was quiet, his earbuds in but no music playing. You okay, kid? Michael asked, glancing over. Ethan shrugged, then said, what if I'm not supposed to be here? With you and Dad. Michael pulled over, heart aching. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. With us. That's not changing. Ethan nodded, but his eyes were distant, searching for something Michael couldn't give him, certainty. Across town, Liam was sketching in his room, his lines frantic, capturing a face he'd seen in a dream Michael's, though he didn't know why. James knocked, holding a mug of hot chocolate. You want to talk? He asked. Liam shook his head, but James said anyway, the silence heavy but comforting. I'm scared, too, James admitted. But you're my son. No test can take that away. The families agreed to spend time together, hoping proximity would ease the tension. They chose a Saturday at a community center, where Ethan and Liam played basketball while the adults watched. Michael noticed James's quiet intensity, the way his eyes followed Liam's every move. David, still guarded, kept his distance. But Michael saw him smile when Ethan laughed, a flicker of their old life. During a break, Liam showed Ethan his sketchbook, pages filled with lighthouses, storms, and now, a portrait of Ethan mid-kick. Dude, this is awesome, Ethan said, genuinely impressed. Liam blushed and used to praise. Their bond was growing, a fragile bridge between two worlds. James pulled Michael aside, his voice low. I got the clinic records. They confirmed it. I'm Liam's biological father. But Ethan, he's yours and David's. The words hit Michael hard. Ethan, their son in every way that mattered, was theirs by blood, too. But Liam, the boy they'd just met, was James's, tied to that long-ago summer. Michael told David that night, expecting relief. Instead, David's face hardened. So, what? We keep Ethan, and James keeps Liam. Like nothing happened. What about the boys? They're not just ours to claim. The argument spilled into the early hours, voices low but sharp. I'm trying to hold us together, Michael said, exasperated. I love you, David. I love Ethan. I'm not giving up on us. Then why does it feel like you're slipping away? David asked, tears in his eyes. He walked out, needing space, leaving Michael alone with his guilt. The next day, Ethan and Liam met at a coffee shop, their first time alone. Do you ever wonder who you'd be if this didn't happen? Liam asked, stirring his drink. All the time, Ethan admitted. But I like my dads. I don't want to lose them. Me neither, Liam said softly. Dad's all I've got. But you're kinda cool, too. They laughed, and for a moment, the weight lifted. But back home, James was unraveling. He found another photo in the attic, one he'd forgotten, him and Michael, kissing by the ocean. A moment of freedom before fear pulled him back. He realized he'd loved Michael, even for a night. And now that love was tangled in their sons' lives. James called Michael again, his voice urgent. We need to decide what's next. For the boys. For us. Meet me Tomarono mediators. No kids. Just us. Michael agreed, his heart racing. The past was no longer buried, and the future depended on facing it. Michael met James at a cliffside overlook, the Pacific Ocean churning below, a place that felt like their past reborn. The wind carried salt and memory as they stood, silent, the weight of the clinic records between them. You loved me back then, didn't you? James asked, his voice barely audible over the waves. Michael nodded, throat tight. I did. But I was scared, too. I ran from it, just like you did. They'd both been young, hiding from a world that didn't understand. And now that world had brought them back together through their sons. James's eyes were raw. Liam's mine, biologically. But Ethan's yours and David's. How do we do this? Tear them apart. Keep them where they are. Michael had no answers. Only questions. What do the boys want? They're not babies anymore. They deserve a voice. Back home, David was trying to reconnect with Ethan. He took him to their favorite diner, the one with the jukebox Ethan loved. I'm sorry I've been distant, David said, his voice soft. This whole thing, it's breaking me. But I love you, Ethan. You're my son, no matter what. Ethan fiddled with a straw, then looked up. I know, Dad, but I'm scared Liam's going to take my place, or that I'm supposed to be with James. David's heart cracked, but he leaned forward. No one's taking your place. We're figuring this out together. Okay. Ethan nodded, and for the first time in days, David felt a spark of hope. Liam, meanwhile, was opening up to James. They sat in the workshop, sanding a table, the rhythm calming them both. Do I have to choose? Liam asked, his voice small. Between you and them. James set down his sandpaper, pulling Liam into a hug. Never. You're my son. We'll make this work. Whatever it takes. The families met again, this time at Michael and David's home. The living room was warm, filled with the scent of coffee and nervous energy. Ethan and Liam sat cross-legged on the floor, flipping through Liam's sketchbook, while the adults tried to navigate the future. James shared the clinic records, his voice steady but heavy. Liam's mine by blood. Ethan's yours. But that's not the whole story. We've raised them. That's what makes us their dads. David, still raw from his fight with Michael, nodded slowly. So, what? We co-parent. Share them like timeshares. No, Michael said firmly. We build something new. A family. Maybe. For them. Ethan looked up, voice bold. We want to stay where we are. Me with you guys. Liam with James. But we want to know each other, too. Like brothers. Liam nodded, his shy smile breaking through. Yeah. Brothers. The word hung in the air. A lifeline. The adults exchanged looks, the tension easing slightly. They agreed to try regular visits, shared holidays, therapy to guide them. But Michael felt James's gaze linger, a question unspoken. That night, alone in their room, David finally reached for Michael's hand. I'm scared, he admitted, but I want us to work. All of us. Michael kissed him, relief flooding through. We will. For Ethan. For Liam. For us. James, back home, stared at the bonfire photo, his heart heavy. He knew the road ahead would be hard. But for Liam and maybe for the boy he'd once loved to try. The first shared family dinner was awkward. The clink of forks louder than conversation. Michael and David's dining room was crowded, with Ethan and Liam at opposite ends of the table, stealing glances like wary allies. James sat stiffly, his carpenter's hands restless, while David tried to keep things light, passing mashed potatoes with forced cheer. The DNA truth hung over them, but so did a fragile hope. After dinner, Ethan and Liam escaped to the backyard, kicking a soccer ball under the string lights. "You think they'll figure it out?" Liam asked, sketching the ball's arc in his mind. Ethan shrugged, grinning. "They're old. They'll argue a lot first." They laughed, their ease a contrast to the adults' tension. Inside, Michael poured James a coffee, their fingers brushing briefly. The touch sparked a memory Newport. The bonfire. A kiss under stars. James pulled back, clearing his throat. "We need rules," he said. "For the boys. For this, whatever this is." David nodded, his guard still up. "Agreed. Visits. Schedules. Therapy. We keep it structured. For their sake." But structure was hard when emotions ran deep. Michael and David's marriage was strained, their nights filled with quiet arguments about trust and secrets. David wanted to move forward, but James's presence felt like a shadow. Michael, torn between guilt and hope, pushed for unity. "We're not just parents," he told David. "We're a family now, like it or not." James, meanwhile, was struggling with Liam's questions. "Why didn't you tell me about Michael?" Liam asked one night, his sketchbook open to a drawing of two men by a fire. James sighed, the truth heavy. "I was scared. Kid. Back then, I didn't know how to be me. Meeting Michael, it changed me. But I ran from it." Liam nodded, his eyes wise beyond his years. "You don't have to run now, Dad." The family started small, weekly dinners, movie nights, a camping trip. Ethan taught Liam to dribble a soccer ball. Liam showed Ethan how to shade a sketch. Their bond grew, a brotherhood forged in shared upheaval. But the adults struggled. David caught James and Michael laughing over an old memory, and jealousy flared. "You're too comfortable with him," he told Michael later, voice sharp. "I'm trying to make this work," Michael said, exasperated. "For Ethan. For Liam. For us." "Then act like it," David snapped, walking away. James, too, was wrestling with feelings he'd buried. He found himself watching Michael, remembering the boy who'd made him feel alive. But he loved Liam too much to complicate things. He focused on his son, taking him to art classes, cheering at Ethan's games. Yet the past lingered, a pull he couldn't ignore. One night, Ethan and Liam overheard the adults arguing. "We can't keep pretending this is normal," David said, voice raised. "We're tied to James now. Forever." "Then we make it work," Michael insisted. "For them." Ethan and Liam slipped outside, sitting on the porch. "They're a mess," Ethan said, but his tone was fond. "Yeah," Liam agreed. "But they're our mess." The boys made a pact. They'd push their dads to find peace, no matter what. It was a small act of rebellion, but it gave them purpose. For the first time, they felt like they could shape their future. The turning point came at a school art show, where Liam's sketches were displayed. Ethan, Michael, David, and James stood together, watching Liam explain his work to a crowd. His latest Paisea lighthouse guiding two ships through a storm brought tears to James's eyes. "That's us," he whispered to Michael. "All of us." Michael nodded, feeling the weight of their shared journey. David, standing nearby, saw the exchange and felt a shift. For the first time, he didn't resent James's presence. He saw a man trying, just like him. After the show, Ethan and Liam pulled their dads aside. "We've been talking," Ethan said, his voice steady. "We want you to stop fighting. We're okay with this being brothers, sharing you guys. But you need to be okay, too." Liam nodded, holding up his sketchbook. "I drew this for us. A family. Not perfect, but together." The adults were silent, struck by the boy's clarity. David took Michael's hand, his grip firm. "They're right," he said. "We've been holding on to fear. It's time to let go." James agreed, his voice soft. "For Liam. For Ethan. We can do this." The families began to blend. Slowly, they celebrated Ethan's 17th birthday together, James bringing a hand-carved wooden box for Ethan's soccer medals. Michael and David hosted, their home filled with laughter for the first time in months. David even caught himself joking with James, their shared love for the boys easing old wounds. But the past wasn't done with them. Michael found an old journal from 2005, tucked in a box of college mementos. It detailed that summer, his feelings for James, and his fear of coming out. Reading it, he realized how much he'd grown and how much he owed David for their life together. He showed David the journal, a gesture of trust. "I'm not that kid anymore," he said. "I'm yours." David read it, tears falling. "I know," he said, pulling Michael close. "I'm sorry I doubted you." James, too, was making peace. He took Liam to Newport, to the beach where he'd met Michael. "This is where I started to figure myself out," he told Liam. "I messed up a lot back then, but you're the best thing I've ever done." Liam hugged him, the ocean roaring behind them. "You're enough, Dad." The families settled into a rhythm, shared weekends, school events, therapy sessions. Ethan and Liam grew closer, their brotherhood a anchor. Michael and David rebuilt their trust, their love stronger for the struggle. James found peace in his role as Liam's father, letting go of the boy he'd loved and embracing the man he'd become. But one question lingered: how to honor the past without letting it define them. The answer came from the boys, who proposed a family trip to Newport, a chance to rewrite the story that started it all. Newport's waves crashed against the shore as the families stood together, the bonfire crackling under a starlit sky. Ethan and Liam built the fire, their laughter echoing as they tossed driftwood into the flames. Michael, David, and James watched, their hearts full. This was no longer a place of secrets, but one of healing. Ethan spoke first, his voice carrying over the fire. "We're a family now, right? All of us." He looked at Liam, then their dads, his eyes fierce with hope. Liam nodded, holding up a sketch of the 5 of them, drawn that morning. "Yeah. Brothers. Dads. All of it." Michael took David's hand, feeling the weight of their journey lift. "We're a family," he said, his voice steady. David squeezed his hand, his smile genuine for the first time in months. James stepped forward, his voice rough but warm. "I ran from this place once, from who I was. But I'm not running anymore. For Liam, for Ethan, for all of us." They sat around the fire, sharing stories not of pain, but of love. Ethan talked about his soccer dreams. Liam shared his hope to study art. Michael and David spoke of their wedding, a memory that grounded them. James admitted his fear of being alone, and how Liam and now this new family had saved him. The DNA test had exposed a mistake, but it also revealed a truth. Family isn't just blood. It's the choice to love, to fight, to stay. Michael looked at David, their love weathered but unbreakable. James looked at Liam, his son in every way that mattered. Ethan and Liam, brothers by choice, not chance. threw stones into the sea, their laughter a promise of tomorrow. As the fire died down, they made a pact to keep this family. Imperfect but whole. They'd face challenges: school, college, life, but together. The past, once a shadow, was now a story they'd rewritten. Not with secrets, but with courage. They left Newport at dawn, the horizon bright with possibility. Back home, Liam hung his sketch in Michael and David's living room, next to Ethan's soccer trophies. James carved a new table for their shared dinners. Michael and David renewed their vows in a quiet ceremony. Ethan and Liam as witnesses, James cheering them on. The DNA test had torn their world apart, but it also built something Nawa family forged in truth, love, and the bravery to face what was hidden. As they stood together, watching the sunrise, they knew this was their real story, and it was just beginning.